Hello again, and thank you for joining us and staying for the Hydrogen Fuel Cell Batteries Group exhibit talk here at Hanover 2018. I now would like to welcome Mr. Tobias König, who's the Program Manager, Green Logistics and Power Supply to Critical Infrastructure for NOW, or NOW. Thank you for joining us. Hi, good afternoon.
Hello,
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting.
Thank you. So first of all, the topic, his topic is fuel cells for standalone power supply to critical infrastructure. I think it's important that I mention that. But first I'd like to ask you about what NOW does, what their mandates are, and so on.
Yes. NOW is short for National Organization Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Technology. So we are 100% publicly financed. We belong to the German Ministry of Transport and Digital Infrastructure, and we have 4 mandates we're working on. The first one, most important one here, National Innovation Program, Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Technology. So everything that concerns this topic is located at the NIP, we call it. The second mandate is battery electric topics. The third one is the charging infrastructure for those battery electric topics. And the fourth one is more of a general overview. It's the general fuel and mobility framework or strategy. So those are the 4 mandates. On all of those, we coordinate funding and programs by the German Federal Ministry of Transport and Digital Infrastructure.
Thank you very much. So again, I'll mention your title, Fuel Cells for Standalone Power Supply to Critical Infrastructure, a NIP focal point. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So me, myself, I have 2 general areas of work at NOW. The first one is green logistics. So we're looking at hydrogen and fuel cells in material handling vehicles, forklifts, tow tractors and such. But our focus today is my second field. It's power supply to critical infrastructures. So there are certain infrastructures where a power outage will have crucial results. So all of those infrastructures, they have backup power systems. For example, hospitals, certain data hubs, traffic systems, traffic guidance, telecommunication, industrial production, and all of those critical points can be supplied with power by fuel cells and hydrogen instead of diesel engines. So
right. So I understand that about a couple of weeks ago there was a big power outage in Germany, countrywide,
Exactly.
and there was a big problem. How do you think it could have been avoided or alleviated?
Exactly. You're talking about the big power outage in Frankfurt. So a data center had a blackout and the backup power supply was, of course, in place, but it was provided by diesel engines, diesel gensets. So what happened is the diesel engine started, but just after a short while, the fuel was not able to float into the engine anymore because it was clumping together. That happens if you let diesel rest for a while, like 2 or 3 years. The diesel clumps together and it's not, you cannot use it anymore. So the maintenance in those diesel gensets has to be on a regular basis, and a lot of times companies just don't do it because backup power is the thing you don't have in your mind. You have your business on the table and you do stuff and you're not caring about the backup power as long as your power works. So what happened in Frankfurt is a big data center ran completely out of power, and an internet hub provider was renting servers in those data center, and they they were not able to provide stable internet connection for many parts of Germany for several hours, like 6 hours of internet failure in different areas of Germany. So companies, private persons, public institutions, they were all disconnected from the internet, which is a very big deal in today's digital age.
Yeah, so a different power supply, not diesel, for example, would have been great help in alleviating or preventing this problem. Now switching a little bit about and talking about what Clean Power Net is, which is funded by the National Innovation Program in Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Technologies. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, there are quite a large number of companies in Germany that are dealing with backup power or off-grid solutions, as we call it, with hydrogen and fuel cells. So this has been a research topic over the last couple of years, and the ministry decided to get the industry working together and lift the whole topic to the market instead of having everybody looking for itself. So this is a German nationwide industry network, and we have manufacturers of fuel cells, we have users of those fuel cells and research institutions meeting on regular basis, having working groups, exchanging ideas, and trying to push the whole topic to commercialization. So Clean Power Net is also funded by the National Innovation Program, Hydrogen and Fuel Cell, which means every company that invests into this network, every euro they invest is matched by the government, so 50% funding for the network. The idea is that we have, of course, public relation in this network. We have a website, we do information work, but also we do workshops once or twice a year. We take out a certain topic, get the industry together, and present this topic to potential users. For example, in the past we worked a lot on the BOS digital radio network, which means organizations with security relevant tasks like police, firefighters, catastrophe prevention. They have their own digital radio network. On each of those base stations of these networks, they have a backup power supply. So those are the most important ones to work in case of a catastrophe. So they decided to test at the first place the new technology, fuel cells, and they saw it was working, and they were expanding the testing areas, and now we have more than 200 systems in the field already.
And also, like, we should mention that speaking of it being effective, also in protected areas, rather doing that instead of using diesel. So if you want to expand on that, maybe?
Exactly. So typical for a network is that you need to have certain base stations all over the place to have a network which is working in whole Germany. So there are areas where there are houses, there are areas where you have national preservatories, for example, and the fuel cell and hydrogen technology can be used in natural preserved areas, because in case of a leak, the hydrogen floats to the top, or propane, if you want, can be used as well. It flows to the top and it's not going to the soil, into the groundwater, and that's a big difference to diesel. So diesel is not certificated for those areas. It cannot be used, or if you want to use it, you have to invest in a lot of protection measures.
Prevention, so it doesn't actually get to that point. Yeah. What sort of, if you can think of a couple of challenges that are encountered?
Challenges, you mean in spreading the technology?
Correct.
Yeah. It's a lot of times it's just the mindset. People are very much used to using the diesel technology. We're driving diesel cars. We have been doing it for quite a while, and we have been using diesel as backup power forever almost. So people are not really willing to change things as long as it works. So diesel works in cars because it's used quite frequently, but as backup power, it's not very much applicable, because the diesel has to be changed on a regular basis. Maintenance is quite high, You have to run the engine every month for a couple of hours, so somebody has to drive up to the backup power stations, start the engine, wait for a while, stop it, and that's just a big disadvantage.
And we were speaking about recently the German government judges, I believe, decided that every city would be allowed to decide if they're going to allow diesel cars within their city limits to operate.
Yeah.
What's your take on this? Like, where do you think this is going to go?
Actually, we've seen a bit of like people are more aware of this topic. So people are concerned about emissions, about NOx, about CO2. They're concerned about the noise, and so we've seen a transfer from the car and the vehicle area to our area, because people are calling. They're saying like, what is this about the emission?
Is it really that bad?
Is it really that bad? And what can we change? So the general awareness in public, in the media coverage, it has been just larger the last couple of months. And of course, when we approach a company or somebody and we can give a current example from the media, it's always a good start to get things going and to have an open ear. It's a door opener actually for this topic. So
like having a fresh evidence and real evidence
exactly.
from real citizens actually encountering this issues or wanting to do something about it.
Yeah.
Is it cost competitive?
It's over the lifetime, in most cases, it is cost competitive to diesel gensets, because you have to switch the fuel in a diesel genset, and also you have to maintain it on a regular basis. So if you look at the lifespan, it is cost competitive. The fuel cell hydrogen solution, you can do remote maintenance. You don't have to drive up there. You can monitor all the data.
Right from your office?
Exactly. The fuel itself, it can stay forever, almost. It's like unlimited time of storage. So there are some points that make it more cost competitive, but if you look at the initial investment, it's of course more expensive. It's like, that's just typical for new technology to be more expensive in the beginning. And here the NOW kicks in, and the ministry. So we've been funding a lot of research recently, as I mentioned, and we've shown in demonstration cases that the technology works. And now we're on the edge of market activation, and we have a guideline at the National Innovation Program, which is called Market Activation. And within this guideline, we have the possibility to fund 40% of the additional cost which a fuel cell brings. So if you compare a diesel genset to a fuel cell and you take the gap, and 40% of this initial investment gap is funded by the German Ministry of Transport Digital Infrastructure. Right now, we have an open call on this topic. It started in the beginning of February, and the deadline for topic description is the 21st of May of 2018. So all companies, and I invite everybody who listens to this, you can apply for backup power solutions.
So the name of the actual submission is for backup power solutions?
It's backup power solutions in two certain areas of applications. The first one is BOS digital radio, which is kind of a special field. As I mentioned, it's a public national radio station network. And the second area is more of a general one, is traffic control systems. So, for example, when you look at railways or road traffic, and you need to have certain signals for the trains or for passengers, or you have to have barriers at points where trains, roads and railroads are crossing. And a lot of times they are not connected to the grid, so they need to have standalone power. This is the second. It's a backup power and standalone power that we're supporting. So those systems that are not connected to the grid, they need to have a power supply, and that can be done with, of course, hydrogen and fuel cells, or you can also use methanol or propane as a fuel. That doesn't really matter. So within our network, the Clean Power Net, we have companies that are using hydrogen, that are using methanol, and that are using propane as well. All three of those fuels.
And May the 23rd is the deadline, correct?
That's the deadline, and to tell you more about this call, it has a maximum budget of 5 million euros, and we expect 600 or 700 systems to be rolled out afterwards in Germany, which is quite a lot, because right now we have about 200 systems in the digital radio network, and 300-400 more would triple the amount, which is quite a big deal at the moment, I think. So it's the first call on this topic, and we expect a big impact of this call. The maximum power outage for our systems is 20 kilowatts at this point. Although we can go up to 100 kilowatts, we focus on the smaller systems for the first call, and more calls can be done, submitted, and issued in the next couple of years. But right now we have this one open call, and I invite everybody to participate.
Hopefully make your submissions before May 23rd. Just one last question. Does anyone have any questions at the moment? No? One last question, or a couple last questions actually. What are there any areas of opportunity that you see coming up?
You mean new fields of applications, for example?
Correct.
Or, yeah. So the next field of application the Clean Power Net is focusing on is network, so network providers. So water supply, electricity supply, all of those network suppliers, they need to have backup power for certain hubs of their networks as well. So in case of a power outage, the network keeps running or can be started again. So the next big area of application could be the network suppliers.
Network supplies. Thank you. And what would be that you would like people to take away from our talk today, apart from the call for submissions for May 23rd?
Yeah, I'd like to that everybody knows that hydrogen and fuel cell is superior to diesel engines from several points of view. From the ecological point of view, you can have green hydrogen. You have a more environmentally friendly solution. You also have a more efficient solution, and you have a more, and this is the most important part, a more reliable solution. So the only thing that still is has to be improved is the cost competitiveness, and we're working on that. So I'm pretty positive that we get to a point where we're totally cost competitive soon.
And go ahead. Okay, fantastic. And yes, I think that's sort of the whole belief and the reason to have these conferences, because it is a possibility and is happening now. So NOW's booth is just B59. It's over there and it's beautiful blue, just at the corner, large and very welcoming. And our thanks to Tobias König, Program Manager, Green Logistics and Power Supply to Critical Infrastructure at NOW. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect. Up next, I have my colleague coming up with Mr. Kristen Vick, who's the Secretary General at the Norwegian Hydrogen Association. And his talk will be to give us an update on maritime and industrial hydrogen applications in Norway. Please stay around and listen to that. Thank you very much.